All right, guys. So let's start with this. We'll have some functional overview of SAP today, right? So I think we covered a little bit of overview last time, right? So all the modules, but I'm just going to show you. So this is like a traditional SAP diamond screen where we show all the core modules, right? So these are all part of ECC. So ECC is Enterprise Central Component. Right now we are on ECC 6 and EHP Enhancement Pack 7, right? I told you that last time. So EHP 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, the latest one is Enhancement Pack 7. Okay, so you see the core modules ISV, MM, PP, QM, PM, HR, FICO, Asset Management, Project System, Workflow, and Industry Solutions. So we currently have around 26 industry solutions. We had 23 as a standard, but I think they have added 3 more. Yeah, yeah. So if you go to help.sap.com, it's help.sap.com. Give me a second. Right. So here you see industry solutions. So you should basically be able to see all the industry solutions there, right? So there are some which might be missing. For example, IS Rail, which is only for railways, right? Or IS Aerospace. I think aerospace might be here if I'm not sure. So there are some specific ones which IS for hospitality management companies. So there are different industry solutions for different companies, right? So there is also industry solution for insurance, and they just bought a company. Uh, it's called Chameleon or something, right? Chameleon, which SAP bought, right? And that was like one of the leaders in in uh, insurance industry, right? So it's called Chameleon. Something like that. So it's called insurance uh, Chameleon here. So the idea is there are different companies, right? So this is called Chameleon, right? It's an industry solution for insurance. So, and it's a Toronto-based software development company, Chameleon, which SAP bought, and it's primarily for the insurance sector. Okay, so if you look at this, uh, so we have two sides of things. Like we have organization structure on one side, and then we have master data on the other side, right? In all these modules. So organization structure is configured in the system. Let me show you where it's configured. Let's go into this one, or let me go into this one. So this is EHP3, a slightly older one, maybe a couple of years old, right? So if you go inside and you go to the SPRO, which is the configuration screen, and you go to the IMG, which is the implementation guide, right? You will see enterprise structure, which is essentially organization structure, right? So that's what we were talking about here, right? So that's my organization structure, which is basically here. So it consists of things, and every time you configure an organization structure or you configure anything, what it generates is called a change request, right? So let me quickly configure something and show you what a change request looks like. So we're going to say define company, and say, let's call it uh, whatever. Net, uh, one, right? I call it street address. You can give new street, PO box, whatever you want to. PO box is not important. Postal code 158. We can give it like Toronto. Or so if you want, really, you decide. So this is for Canada. Language is English and currency is CAD, right? And when you save this, you will see it creates what we call as a change request. And from a basis standpoint, it's very important that you understand what a change request is, because every time you guys will be transporting, right, which is moving this change request from development to test, and then from development to production, right? So if you see this system name here, it's in the bottom. Yeah. Yes. Yes. You move the change request to QS, and then from after QS it goes to production, but the system of origin is still development.
Yeah, because it's stuff.
It started in development. Yeah. Okay. So look at this. This is called MLESRV, and then when I go ahead and save this, right? So this gives you a change request, right? But I can create every time you guys want to create a change request, you create a new one, right? So what happens is if I'm in a project mode, right? I'm doing a project where I'm implementing sales, materials management, supply chain, human resource, financials, right? Whatever, right? Then I can have one change request for my module or for a functional area. So the change request can be grouped as a folder where you have all the change requests for a particular changes, a group of changes under one change request. So the same change request can store multiple changes, or you can have each change request having a different number for different change. Okay. So if I click on this create change request and I say this is define new company called net1. Okay. So this is specific for, so when I create single change request, then I can transport that single change request. When I create multiple change requests, I have to transport multiple change requests. In a project, I will go and create multiple change requests under one change request, right? So multiple changes under one change request. In a maintenance mode where you're fixing, right? I'm fixing things, right? Then I will basically have each change request being unique, so I can move them uniquely. Okay. So this is where I create. So if you see now, it will give me a change request number, a new one. So now I am at 31, right? And I'll save it, right? So, so it's saved now. Now when I go to a screen called, let's open a new session, SE01, and I says my customizing change request or my development change request. So this was customizing, which is configuration, and development is programming, right? So I look at my change request. So there should be one which says called net1, define new company called net1. You here see this, right? Now this change request essentially can be released, right? So basically it takes you to the table where you have stored the data, and it tells you that I called my company as net1 here. Okay. So all you have to do is to release the change request. When I say release the change request, it actually locks you from doing any further changes under that change number. So see the first three digits, they are MLE, they will coincide with your server MLE. Then K 900001 is where it starts with. So I've got 2031 changes done in the system till date. So ours was the 2031st change that we made. So in order to release this means, and you will always be releasing change request, there might be a strategy for releasing change request where a release manager will say, now it's tested, I'm fine, no more changes allowed, so log this change request. Because it is a complete object which nobody needs to touch now, so you can move it from development to test, and test to production. So it's very simple to release it. So you just click on it,
So
right?
you can change it here after you
Yeah. So whenever you create a change request, you will see it creates the master and it creates a baby under it. Okay, automatically. So I've got 32 as a baby, and 31 is the one I created, but it has got 32 under it as a baby. Okay. So by default, when you keep using this, it will keep creating other change requests under it. Okay. The primary one will remain, but every change under it is by default created separate. But the description will be same. One of the best practices, every time you are making a change, you rename the change request differently so it is meaningful. So this was creating a company code. It could be creating a cost center. It could be bug fixing. It could be whatever, right? So when the guy looks at the change, he doesn't have to kind of decipher what is this all about, right? It describes what the change is. Okay. So all you have to do is to release this. You say check. This is called a code inspector. So you'll see at the bottom it says code inspector check. Checking runs. No object in error. All you have to do after this is you have to click on the truck, and the truck means release the change request. That means it's locked from any further changes. Okay. So that's how you guys will relieve the change request every time the testing is approved. Now, when this change request moves to another system, and we'll see that later, right? It will always have the system of origin first three digits, where it was generated, where it was configured first, right? So that's my organization structure. The master data is also configured there. Then if you go down, let's look at SD. SD has everything what we call as order to cash. Order to cash means quotation, inquiry, quotation, sales order, delivery order, goods issue, proof of delivery, invoice, and payment. So all of those processes are part of order to cash, right? So you will see this term called OTC, order to cash, right? So these are the functionalities of order to cash or sales and distribution module in SAP. I'm not going to go too much into functional. I think we have gone through that in the past, right? We have gone through some architecture stuff. But I have not gone to individual modules, each one of them. So we know that there is financials we have gone, HR we have gone, sales and distribution we have not really gone deep into it. We have not gone into materials management, which is procure to pay. So this, so there are some standard modules in SAP. One is so you say SAP standard modules, which you will see very very often, right? SD is called OTC. OTC means order to cash. So somebody says SD, you say that you're talking about OTC, order to cash, or in some cases it's written O2C, order to cash, right? PP, materials management, for example, is called P2P, procure to pay. HR model is called H2R. What is that? Hire to retire, right? So each module has an abbreviated form, right? The other one is production planning. Uh, so production planning is called production planning. I don't have an acronym for it, but there are such acronyms in the industry. Okay. So this is the sales process, right? So I told you inquiry, quotation, order, delivery, goods issue, billing, and it integrates with financials, and PP, right? So guys, when you create a change request, in a lot of cases they want to make sure that integration works together before you release the change request. Okay, because if you look at the sales process, it is integrated with financials, material management, and production. I told you what MRP is. We already know MRP, MRP 1, 2, 3, 4, and we know what MRP run does. We also know SOP, sales operation planning, and we also know demand planning. Okay, so let's look at next module, material. So this is called procure to pay module, guys. So there's a procurement process. So forecast material requirement, production. So if the material is there, then you send it to production. If it's not there, you send it for procurement. If the material is not there, you create a purchase rec. If it is there, you create a production order. And then production order goes through manufacturing, and then there's a goods issue, which is internal goods issue, not outside the company, but inside. Your your factory issuing the goods to warehouse. It's called internal QA, and then warehouse issuing it to the either the retail location or to the customer, right? So it integrates with sales and distribution. There is the important concept of invoice verification in that. Okay, from a basis standpoint, because we guys are doing basis, a lot of this flows through EDI, electronic data interchange. And I told you, in order to do EDI, what is the transaction code, guys? We last time remember something to do with marriage. I called it as wedding EDI with a W in the front, right? So here, so if you type WEDI, so whenever you electronic data interchange, you think about wedding. So all the transaction codes will start with a W, right? And then electronic is the next transaction code, WE. So if you're looking for electronic data interchange transaction code, you should type WE star. There you go. So in VEDI is a master transaction code where you'll find all the WEs, right? Everything to do with electronic data interchange. So if you want to find, so we talked about SC16N last time, right? So in this, I can remove the number of heads. We can look at transactions text to code table, TSPCT, in that English WE star, and I will get all my electronic data interchange transaction codes. Already? So how does that look, guys? So, and you can export this, you can view this. So a lot of times you might have to troubleshoot the most common ones. So electronic data interchange, the data is interchanged through document files. So Microsoft uses Word document, SAP uses iDocs, right? Interface documents or intermediate documents. Yeah, 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 yeah. So if I want to set up sender and receiver partner profiles, the transaction code is W20, WE20. Port definition is WE21, right? You want to test an inbound file, WE16, right? Test file status, WE17, right? Delete an IDOC, V11, but all of that is WE, okay? So that's I was talking about the process, right? So if you're sending an invoice, we set up in WE, okay? So one of the important concepts, you see this truck carrying stuff. Now you do transports in a warehouse. We do movements. Movements are the type of movement. Moving to rack is a movement type. Moving for quality is a movement type. Moving for production is a movement type. So they differentiate. Material is controlled to the type of movement. If you're taking it to quality assurance, it will not allow you to sell that material. It's not for sale. So it will control that through something called a movement type. Okay, it's very important. Uh, one more area is financial accounting. Financial accounting, uh, you guys, if you're working in US, you can work on a W2, 1099, or a cop to cop. In Canada, it's T4, right? T4As, right? T4s and T4As. So if you're a contractor, you get a T4A. If you're an employee, you get a T4. So like in US, we have 1099, W2s, and W2 is a employed salaried worker. 1099 is an independent contractor, and then we have cop to cop, which is company to company. You invoice company to company, right? So all of that is so those are all set up in the financial area. So here, this is the client. We are using client 300 right now. I think for your training purpose, I said we are going to use a client, which is client, which client did I give? 100 or 500? I think 500. For training purpose, we said 500. For basis, we are going to use 500. The reason being, if you happen to do something wrong, it's anyway a screwed up client. So you you are allowed to do mistakes. In the other clients, they are nice and clean. We don't want you to screw up those clients, right? Just basically, we want to be careful that you know nothing goes wrong with those clients because a lot of people are working on those clients. So this one is like for basis and bad. So if you do a screw up, I think it's not excusable because you will still corrupt the system, but a lot of it is already corrupted, right? So it's just for basis, okay? So guys, I'm also setting up a server, which is a VMware server, right? So we got a system with 2 terabyte hard disk, 32 gig memory, and multiple CPUs, right? Uh, Maybe 8 CPUs right now. So we are setting up a VMware, which is one operating system, and then multiple virtual machines, multiple servers on those. That'll be nice to kind of learn how that is done, okay? Because that's the way in future. A lot of people are doing cloud computing, mobile computing. VMware is becoming very, very standard in order to optimize, especially in countries like Africa, India, uh, maybe European Union, some of the countries where that they want to optimize the cost, right? So instead of buying 10 servers, I'll buy 2 servers, one on the production side, one everything else, right? And I'll create 5 virtual machines on my development environment using a VMware, and then I'll create another one for my production, right? That's the way to go, guys. So let's continue. So client is obviously, we said the client is something that you work on. So the clients are set up, clients are created, and you can view all the clients using transaction SCC4, right? In any system, you use SCC4. S in basis, S means services, right? CC is client, right? So client creation, CC. Service transaction for client creation. 4 just numbers, right? So everything to do with SCC, you see these are all the clients that we have got on our the system. Now you might be creating another one, but I might want to go and clean this up. So one of the things we want to do is, as an exercise, we might ask you to clean up all this garbage, right? So in a company, normally you have one client for development, one for test, one for production. Now we have 100 here, so obviously it's it's a training system. That's why we have 100 clients, right? In a real system, so one of the important things in a client you want to remember is the logical system name. A logical system name is something that you will always need to connect two clients together using a program which connects them, and the program is called remote function call, RFC. It's an API, right? So it's a program interface programs, and it's called RFC, remote function call. Okay. Now, guys, client 000 and 001 are delivered to you. Obviously, somebody has changed them. And then other client is a health check client. It's called early watch client that's delivered to you. So 001, 000, and 066 are always delivered to you. Now, if you're buying a training system, like you're installing a training system, the other client that will come standard is 800, which is called IDES client, International Demonstrational and Educational System. The difference between when you install a real server, you'll have only 1, 2, and 3, because health check is something that SAP uses to log in and correct issues for you. 000 and 001 are admin clients, right? And then you will create another client out of those, which the company will start using. But the client 800 that I use for international demonstration education system is something which is pre-configured, so it's not empty. Otherwise, when you install in a real company, it's all empty. So I've got data in it, I've got configuration in it, so I can demonstrate stuff to you right away. Okay? But remember, guys, logical system name is extremely important for you. So these are clients and company codes and divisions. So these are all part of organization structure. So basically, this gives us a small overview of all the modules are. If you look at the modules, right? So there are two sides. This is called EVXS. EVXS. Now I have modules here. So if I talked about sales module, this is part of logistics. Procurement is part of materials management. Financials is here, account, and HR is the other one, which is here. So broadly, there are like three major areas of functionality, right? One is called logistics, which is all supply chain, production planning, quality assurance, customer care service, that kind of stuff. Then we have accounting, so everything related to finance is part of accounting, including public sector accounting. And then we have HR, human resource, right? So there are lots of modules, industry specific, like public sector. So public sector, you see this. Now you also see utilities, right? Now you also see real estate management, right? So you will also see banking. I mean, it's not in this system, but in another system, I've got banking installed. So there are bank applications there, for example. Uh, so banking. So what you can do is once you install a system, then there is a DVD come in which is called Industry Solution DVD. So it superlays on top of it additional components for that industry. Now in the ideal system, a lot of it is installed because it's pre-configured. But in real system, but by the way, guys, when we install the IDES, it might take you 24 to 48 hours. But when you install real system, because it's empty, it can be done in 2 to 3 hours. It's as fast as that. It's very quick because there's no data inside, so it will be very quick to install, right? So, guys, any question on functionality side in terms of functionality of SAP? We have gone through all the modules, right? We have covered the architecture overview. There are two sides of the coin. One is called the easy access. This side is used for testing. Another is called the configuration side, and that side is used as PRO, used for configuration to create change requests, right? So I just created some change requests for you, and I showed you how those change requests really work, right? So this one is called customizing project, and consultants get access to both the sides. But again, even for consultants, I can limit. So one of the roles that you guys will be doing, you'll be limiting the consultant to his area of specialization. For example, I'm a financial consultant. I should not be allowed to go and change sales and distribution or materials management. It's not that I will go and do it. By default, as a precaution, I will not give him those area of specialization which is not his. Okay. So you guys might end up creating even before the project starts, right? Something called roles and profiles. So if you see on the top here, it's called create role, right? So you guys might create roles, consultants as well, and we'll see how this really goes for consultant as well, so that they will work in their area of specialization. It's not question of by mistake I deleted something, okay? It's a prevention. It's prevention is better than cure, right? So I want to make sure I don't give access to the areas which do not belong to them. Okay. So you guys will be creating roles both for consultants and for end users. So there are two things we create. One is called role, other is called a profile. Anybody knows the difference in role and a profile? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So actually, we could walk through several of
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
settings.
Yeah. 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 So you can have multiple roles and profiles, but role essentially is defining what. So for example, your role is as a student, right? Your profile is more details. So what subjects you study, what classes you go, what can you do, what classes you're not supposed to go to, right? That kind of stuff. So basically, what's your age, what's your gender, that kind of stuff. So everything is in more in profile. So profile is more elaborate than a role. Role only says what can you do, what you cannot do. Profile checks.
Level one.
Yeah, exactly. Profile in system gives you the level of access. What should you touch? What you should not touch? Where you should go? Where you should not go? Are you allowed to read? Are you allowed to delete? Are you allowed to create? All those kind of access. So a lot of securities. So security primary control factor is a profile for security. Okay. Yeah. It's not in SPRO. No. So good old days, the security creation of roles and profiles was the job of a system administrator. Okay. As we became more and more specialized, the creation of roles and profiles, right, evolved, and it became a role of a security consultant. As we even evolved further, it got integrated with HR because I'm saying my role depends on my HR structure, right? If I'm a president of a company, I can do certain things which others are not allowed to do. If I am a general manager or I'm a director, or I'm a vice president, I'm a manager, I'm a sales executive, I'm a whatever, you know, uh, maybe another just a labor in the factory. Each one of us has a hierarchy in the organization, right, in the HR structure. So the roles and profiles originally part of system admin, they moved to security, now they moved to HR, and now they're part of a specialized area called GRC, governance, risk, and compliance, because that's how you control the company, right? So the new version we have is GRC 10 or GRC 11 now. So GRC 10 and 11 are so they bought a company which basically uh, just like they bought this chameleon company, right? And they bought Hybris. They bought a company called Versa Technology. So they Versa used to basically input the roles and profiles and put it into the HR structure and generate reports, right? So as we bought that company, it was a very small company, but they made a lot of money by selling it, hopefully, right? So few $1 million, $100 million, 200, and anything SAP buys is millions or billions, if not millions, right? So if you have a niche product, you know, and they feel it's a good fit, they'll, there's a good chance they will buy and implement that as part of their functionality if it's not there in. Okay, so 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 configuration, easy access. Easy access is for testing. Configuration is for customization. Okay, customization means a functional consultant will go and work on the configuration side. A technical consultant, a developer, will work on the development side, and that is called development task, right? So when I go to, so look at my transport, right? I go to one. So I have two things. I have workbench and I have customizing task. So customize is all configuration. Workbench is all development. So the workbench, there is one transaction code. Look at this, guys. SE38. SE38 is where I write my program, right? And my programs, anything that I write in SAP as a custom program has to start with a Y or a Z. It cannot start with anything else. Why? The reason being, when SAP upgrades or changes the system, they override everything except anything starting with a Y or a Z. They don't touch it. Okay? So anything starting with a Y or a Z will be your customer object. They will not touch it. They will not delete it. They will not override it. Anything other than Y or Z, you are allowed to create, and by default they will override because they belong to the company. Okay? So let's say you take a program. It's called Z-test basis 1 or Z-test basis 2, right? So I will write a program here. So you will go ahead and create a program. The program type is executable program. The status is a SAP standard test program. We'll call it test program. Program is a cross application program. For example, authorization group, logical database. I have to assign some logical database. Let's see. You can assign something here. Delivering process, and I'm saving this. Enter a title. So I'll call it, right. So this is how program write program, and you can basically go ahead and save it as local objects, right? And then you write your program. Now say run. So you will write a program, whatever the program is, right? And then you will loop the program. You will loop programs. You will call tables, fields. You will have display screens, and then you will have reports, blah blah blah, right? All of those nice stuff you will have, right? So once I write the program, I check the program. Obviously, this is going to be wrong, right? It doesn't. So I typed in English, and then you activate the program, and then you go ahead and program, right? So now once you save the program, guys, so this program, Z-test basis, is a program, right? Now I need to create a transaction code out of this. That means I need a small 2 or 3 letter digit for people to run it, right? Like all of these have transaction codes, PPMD. Let's say if I say manager desktop, right? The program looks very different. So SAP has got this method of creating a program, and then you can create a transaction code for that program. Let's do this first. So PA40, it's all personal programs, HR programs. So guys, this is the transaction code, but the program here you will see is called something different. It's called SAP MP50A. You see that at the bottom? SAP MP50A. So the transaction code is different from the program. Transaction is like a trigger which runs the program. So I write a program, okay? Then I will go to transaction called SE93. Let's go to SE93. And that there I will give the transaction code. So I can say ZT01 because that's what test program, right? And then I import, I create, and then yes, uh, run basis test. Okay, and then I will input my program name. Program is whatever I call that. Screen number. I have to put some screen. Normally, so this there are reserved number space for you and others. So you go ahead and save this. So now this ZT01 becomes my transaction code to run if the for example you want to browse programs. So we created a program called no, it was called let's I don't remember what it was.